last week, we went over some basic thumbnail sketching skills. Okay, so we took a day on Wednesday and went over how to do this sort of stuff, right? Just did some basic warm-up exercises and demonstrated, how you guys could do using some very basic drawing skills. Okay, do a lot with those. And then also using your initials as an example, had you work on some sketches that reflected the different ways you could come up with ideas using very basic information, just your initials. Okay, in my case, a J and an S, okay, whatever your initials were, and just using basic information and basic lines and some of those thumbnail sketching skills, how you could come up with some ideas, right? Now we're going to put those skills into an actual practical practice. Now, this was supposed to be done on Thursday. We had a snow day. I did not change the due date right away, but I have changed that now. I changed it over the weekend. So here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to give you guys your information to what your next step of the project is and walk you through those steps. And then if you already submitted your work, which some people did, okay, they saw the assignment was up, they decided to take the time and do it, that's fine. I have not looked at anything yet, so if you want to resubmit, okay, then you are absolutely okay to do that. Okay, you can add on to it, you can replace it, whatever you want to do. All right, so you should feel free to do that. All right, now let me show for everybody else, let me show you what the assignment is. Let me just switch screens here and get over to the actual assignment itself, which I have unfortunately removed. Let me get back on track here. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and we'll go over that. Okay, so here's what the people who already completed this or are in progress working on it. Okay, this is what they're seeing. This is for everybody else here. Okay, so now what we've already done, we've done a brainstorming sheet where you came up with a name for your athletic footwear company. Okay, or you have a name in progress. Okay, now what you're going to do is take that name and turn it into a logo for your footwear company. Okay, now keep in mind some of the historical precedent that's here. Okay, so for example, before Nike was Nike and before Nike came up with the swoosh, okay, as their logo, the name of the company was Blue Ribbon Sports, BRS. Okay, and BRS came up with this Nike athletic shoe that Phil Knight wanted a graphic for the sides of the shoe. Carolyn Davidson designs that graphic that's going to be stitched onto the sides of the running shoes. That becomes the swoosh that we know for the company now. All right. Adidas. Okay, the Adidas logo or the Adidas name actually is actually short for the founder of the company, Adi Dassler. Okay, so Adi Dassler and his brother both had a footwear company. They split the company up. They got into this huge fight. They split the company up. Adi Dassler took his and created his own company, Adidas, and his brother went and formed Puma. Okay, so two separate athletic footwear companies that started as the same company. And the Adidas stripes form a triangle, which is representative of the A for Adidas. All right, so this is like some of that information for that. Okay, but what you guys are going to do here is not really related to what Adidas did. It's more related to what Nike did. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to develop some logo concepts based off of the name or the theme of your company, the name of your company or the theme of the sport. okay? Or the athletic activity, whatever it is. Okay, now I provided this sheet so that if you have a printer at home and you want to use the sheet, you can print it out and you can use it. If you do not have a printer, okay, you are not required to use the sheet. The information is on it for you to refer to, but you don't have to actually use it. All you need is a blank sheet of paper. Printer paper, notebook paper, graph paper, a paper towel, okay, whatever you've got in your house, I'm fine with your using, okay? Now, you need to come up with at least 9 different, very, very rough ideas. Just like the stuff you did last week for your thumbnail sketching exercise, that is what you are doing here. 9 different ideas, playing with the name of your company, playing with the theme of your company, whatever the athletic activity is, playing with shapes, playing with lines. This is playtime. Okay, but you have one restriction, one big restriction. Okay, you're not allowed to do a word mark. Okay, so if you remember from the prior week when we were talking about the different kinds of logos, a word mark is a logo that uses the words or the name of the company. So like Coca-Cola, like Subway. Okay, you're not allowed to use the actual name of your company for your logo. Now, you can use the initials. So you could use, say, the first initial of your company's name. So say your company's name is Fast Kicks and you want to use the F. Okay, you could do the F and use it, and use that. If you want to do an FK, okay, if it's 2 words, Fast Kicks, and you want to do an FK and do some sort of a monogram like that, you can. IBM is International Business Machines, okay, which is a mouthful, so they just use IBM. That is okay. That is perfectly acceptable to use here. However, you would not be able to use the full name of your company for the logo. Okay. These do not need to be final sketches. Remember that what I was saying is that you're looking to just get the ideas out of your head and onto a sheet of paper so that you can determine whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. And honestly, right now, there is no such thing as a bad idea. There's simply ideas you're not going to use. Okay, so you put everything down that you can think of. Okay, you have to do at least 9. If you come up with more ideas or you don't like the 9 that you draw, then do more. Okay, this is your company, this is your logo, this is your project. Okay, so you should have a vested interest in how this is going to look. Okay, and thumbnail sketching, guys, this is not a lot of work here. Okay, if we were in school, I would give you these sheets and I would ask for them back at the end of the period. Okay, a thumbnail sketch should not take you more than 2 or 3 minutes tops to work on. These are the hangman of sketches here, very basic. Okay, let me look and see what the comments, we've got some comments coming in on the chat. No, Mina, you can't. I'm not even going to let everybody know what you're asking here. No, you cannot. Ginny, I would prefer they be drawn out. Okay, so Ginny's question is a good question. I get this question asked by my college students a lot. Do you have to draw it or can you do it right on the computer? I would prefer that you not go to the computer yet. And my reasoning for this is actually psychological. Okay, and again, I have a lot of background on this. People who tend to go and work on a computer also tend to think that the thing that they're creating on the computer is a precious object and that it cannot be moved. It's immovable. It can't be changed. It can't be modified. It can't be adapted, adopted, anything. It's final. And I don't want you guys to think about this at this point. So I would rather you drew it out. And again, that's why I gave you a wide flexibility to work with. Use a pen, use a pencil, use a crayon, use a gel pen. Okay, use a colored pencil for all I care. It doesn't matter. Okay, the idea is to come up with as many ideas as quickly as possible so you can do this design exorcism and get all the ideas out of your head and get them into a more finalized form later on. Okay, but to further answer Ginny's question about going on a computer, if you have a sketching program on a tablet, say you've got Procreate, okay, which is very, very popular with you guys and some of my college students these days. And you've got one of those Apple pencils, or you've got a drawing tablet or something, and you want to work with that, I will accept that. Okay, I will accept you using it in a sketching program like Procreate or something. If you're doing that, please let me know that you're doing that. Okay, for everybody else, I'm going to do a little demo right here about what I want you to do. Okay, it's much faster, it's much simpler, and you can do it anywhere. Okay. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Come on. For some reason, it's not stopping sharing. There we go. All right, and we should be back here where you guys can see my sketches from last week. All right, so you need a piece of paper here. What I want you guys to do is I want you to play. Now, if you choose, okay, if you choose to, you can do one of two things, okay? You can either draw the boxes in for yourself, or you don't have to draw boxes in. It's totally up to you, and I don't care either way. Okay, what you're going to do, I'll draw a couple of boxes and I'll also do a couple without. How's that? Okay, so if you just draw a box, they don't need to be very big. Thumbnail sketches are not very big. I'm just going to draw a simple box like this. And because I don't have a company name to work with here, I'll use my initials again, right? So I'll use my initials, so I'll do some playing with this. Okay, so again, I'm just going to play with some lines. It doesn't have to be particularly neat. Okay, so I'm going to take like my initial here, and maybe I'll just go and draw out some wings, you know, here to try something like that. Okay, maybe I don't like that idea so much because the wing that I drew looks too much like an F. I'd rather make it look more like a regular wing. So maybe I'll just draw this straighter out and then draw out like something that looks a little bit more like a real wing here to make it look fast. Maybe what I can try is something without a box here. So I'll try trying a different shape. Instead of doing curves, maybe I'll try something that's got a straight line to it, and maybe, you know, something like that. But you know what? I don't like that. That looks too much like an E here. So maybe I'll try the same thing. Okay, and again, it does not need to look very neat. Okay, you're playing around with lines. We already did this last week. Now you're trying it on your own with your own different idea. Okay, so maybe now what I want to try is, you know, along the same idea. Okay, so maybe I'm going to try something like this. It's going to be a little bit layered. Okay, and again, they don't have to be good ideas. They just have to be a lot of ideas. I'm asking for at least 9, but you can do as many as you want. Maybe I like this idea, but I don't like the flames anymore. So I'll try something like this, and maybe I'll just try putting this in a shape. So you guys are allowed to use shapes. You can use props from your athletic activity. So you could use a baseball, a hockey puck. If you're did ballet shoes or dance shoes and you want to do a ribbon, okay, you can do a ribbon. Okay, we did some shading last week just using some hatching, so I can use some hatching here just to make my triangle look a little bit darker. Okay, just so I can kind of see what that's going to look like. And you're just doing this real quick. I mean, I just did these in what, a minute or two? Okay, that's all you're looking to do is try as many different ideas as possible. And again, they shouldn't have a lot of detail to them. Okay, if you remember from the Cooper Hewitt book that we looked at a couple of weeks ago, which you still have access to, okay, there were a couple of things, tips and tricks to help you with your logo design. So remember that a good logo design should look good when it's big, like on a billboard, but it should also look good when it's small, on like a business card, right? So you don't need a whole lot of detail. Okay, you want to make something that's going to be as simple as possible and that can be scaled down. If you draw it a little bit more complicated, that's fine. Okay, I will, if it's something you really want to stick with, then I will show you, we'll try to simplify it and strip it down a little bit. Okay, if it's too detailed, but it's just an idea that you want to get down on the paper, that's fine. Get all your ideas down onto paper so that they can be shared. It's not only sharing with me, showing me what you're working on, but also for you to get those ideas out of your head and down onto a surface so you can decide whether it's something you want to continue to work on or something you want to forget about. And you're allowed to have an idea, just like I did here, and come up with a couple of different versions of it. Okay, play off of it. Say, you know what, I like this, but I don't like this. Let me try it and do something different and do variations on it. That definitely works. Okay, but you do want to think about scalability. So I'm going to sketch something out here that I want you to pay attention to, because you, again, you will be using these logos for other projects that I'm going to give you. Okay, so when you consider that, okay, this is something that I want you to consider as well. Okay, so if I'm going to draw something, I want to make sure that I can draw it as simply as possible, and maybe considering somewhere down the line how thick it's going to be too, because when this gets smaller, okay, so say it gets half the size, it's not only going to be half the height, it's also going to be half the width. So when this becomes half the height, it's going to be half the width. When that gets to be half the height, it's going to be half the width. So as something scales down, it not only gets smaller height-wise, it also gets more narrow. So when you're working on your sketches, if you're working on stuff that's little teeny tiny details, those details will get smaller when the logo is seen at a smaller size. Okay, so that's something to think about. Think about that a logo is going to need to, your logo is going to need to look good in black and white, okay, which is the highest contrast that we can have. And it's also going to need to look good in color. Okay, so your logo should look good as if it was just going to be in black and white. Okay, just those two tones right there. But also down the line, you'll get to experiment with color and all the toys that are in Illustrator. So what will it look like when it's got multiple colors going on too, okay? All right, so just to do a time check, okay, we have about 7 minutes left. Okay, so this is something you don't just have to work on in class. This is due for midnight tonight. Okay, it was going to be due for Thursday night. I changed the due date. Okay, it's now due for midnight tonight. Okay, you can work on this now in class. You got plenty of time. You can work on it during lunch. You can work on it after school. You don't need any of the graphics technology to complete this. Okay, you don't need the graphics software to be smart. Okay, the graphics software is just a tool, just like this pen is, just like that paper is. It's just a tool. Okay, so you can work on this now, work on it during study hall, work on it during lunch, after school. You have until midnight. And remember that if we were in school, I would have given you these sheets at the beginning of the period and asked for them at the end of the period. Okay, if you're spending more than 2 minutes on each of these, that's 18 minutes total work I'm asking for you guys to do. If you're spending more than 2 minutes on a thumbnail sketch, you're spending too much time. Okay, now, when this is done, you need to take a picture of it and add it to the thumbnail sketch assignment that's posted. Okay, you need to take a good picture of it. Okay, not one that's blurry, not one that's too dark that I can't see it. You need to start learning how to use your phones and your devices as tools and not just toys. Okay, so they might be fun to watch cat videos on and text and make TikTok videos on and play games on, but I'm asking you to use it as a tool. And you're going to be using it a few times for this project. So it's really worth it for you to take your time, make sure that you give me as clear a picture as possible for practice, because you're going to have to do that later on. Okay? All right, tomorrow I'm going to show you samples of past student projects so you can see what's possible to do with this assignment. And I'm also going to give you the next couple of steps. I want you to be thinking ahead. Just like you're playing chess, I want you to be thinking ahead 2 or 3 steps so that you know when you're working on something what you have to think of next. Okay, so when I show you the logos tomorrow, okay, part of what I'm going to be doing is also showing you what you're going to do with these thumbnail sketches next. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing, moving forward. So tomorrow will be samples, then you're going to move on to a final drawing of your logo at a much bigger size with a lot more care taken to it. And then we're going to get back into working in Photoshop and Illustrator on this. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions, any other questions besides the ones that were already asked? All right. You have less than 5 minutes left in class. You have about 4 minutes. I will be having office hours today if you need to reach me. If you have any further questions on this. If you already submitted thumbnail sketches the other day for this and you want to add on to or change your mind now that you've seen what I've done here, you are definitely allowed to do that. Okay, you can remove the one that you already turned in and you can replace it, or you can add on to it if you came up with some more ideas. Okay, so definitely take advantage of the extended time that I've given you here to work on that, okay? Somebody had a question last period. They were jumping way too far ahead. They were thinking beyond the logo and thinking on to some of the next projects. I don't think about you don't know what the projects are, so don't think about those. Just think about this. Go online, look and see what some of the graphics and symbols that you are referencing are going to look like, what a baseball looks like, a tennis ball, a golf ball, that sort of thing. Look at the Cooper Hewitt document that I gave you guys last week that shows you some of the tips and tricks for designing a great logo. You're allowed to use any of those resources and references that you need. Okay, anything that will help you, go ahead and use it. Okay.